Good evening. Welcome to the December 6th City of Glens Falls Planning Board meeting. Apologize for the delay in getting into the common council chambers. There was the wedding going on, so thank you for bearing with us. We have a couple of items on our agenda this evening. The first item on our agenda is the review and potential approval of the minutes from the November 1st meeting. I'll go around the board. Art, do you have anything?
No.
No. Kim? No. Keith?
All good.
The only thing that I have, Emily, is that on the one resolution on the back, you still have,
So you want to do motions in that, as long as that's in this.
So then I would make a motion that we accept the meeting minutes from the November 1st meeting as amended.
I second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Perfect. So the first item on our agenda is sketch plan review 220003. Pursuant to City Code Chapter 220, 27B, subsection 2, Mark Bramer is seeking a sketch plan review for a proposed extension of Franklin Street from South Street 100 or more feet into the existing building lot. The tax map number is 309.16-12-8, commonly known as 5 to 7 Franklin Street, to provide access to proposed single-family residence. Is there somebody here to represent that?
Yep.
Great. If you could come forward and state your name for the record.
I'm Mark Bramer. Normally you don't have to go through this sort of process, but this lot right here on Franklin Street, on this end, is the last remaining buildable lot on that end of the street. Unfortunately, right now it's landlocked without this extension. This is a paper road, so on tax documents, there does show a road there at one point in time. However, that was never constructed. As I got into this, speaking with Jeremy and then also planning and zoning Catherine, the issue had come up and Jeremy said, well, you know, they had some issues with, and if you see the map, the lot behind us that was dug out. And this lot is actually up on top of the hill. As soon as you hit the property line, it drops off. The only exception being the back, the south corner there, there is a bit of it does start to descend there a little bit. But as far as having any issues, as far as digging out or whatnot, there's nothing there. So Jeremy's thought was, well, you might want to check with the planning board, make sure there's not an issue just from that previous, which was fine. And then as we got into it, we started talking about the road and how is that, Jeremy said, well, you're going to construct the sewer and the water, and that's fine. Well, then it comes to, okay, well, who's clearing it? Who's building the road? What specs do we have to build that to? This isn't will not be a main city road if we get approved, and it's only going to be serving one lot. So, what do we, or what can we do there for a road that's acceptable?
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, that's not going to be, astronomical with under drainage and everything else, storm sewer drainage and whatnot.
To serve one lot.
Yeah.
So with it, I guess we'll go through the board, but the immediate question is, are you looking to build this as a driveway, or are you looking to build this as a roadway?
Preference, well, it is the Glens Falls right away, so obviously you're going to tell me what I have to do. But my preference would make it driveway width, whether it's crushed stone or paved,
Mm-hmm.
But
it would be maintained by the property owner.
But I could, yes, and I definitely, that's not an issue, maintaining that.
Mm-hmm.
If the city says, no, we have to maintain it, well, then that's a different story. But I have no issues if the city says, well, if you maintain it, you can construct it as a driveway spec. Yeah.
Where's the paper street?
Runs from South Street there. This is the actual, so this is the end of Franklin
Yes.
Street now.
Old maps actually show the street going through, but it does
It's a
not.
pretty steep drop off there.
There's a steep drop off. I used to live on Beacon Street, two streets over years
What we
ago.
did recently, the common council discontinued a paper street for this type of purpose.
Mhm.
So that's something you could ask, go before the common council
Okay,
and ask to discontinue the paper street.
okay,
Then you become a part owner of that land
okay.
with the other adjacent property owners, but you could build your
Then
driveway.
you could build a true
If you're
driveway.
gonna build a road, you've gotta go through the dedication process back to the city, and it's gotta be built to the city specs.
Okay.
That would be extremely expensive.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
So we might wanna think about discontinuing the paper street so that you can build a driveway.
Okay.
And then,
So where would the ownership of that property come
when the street is discontinued,
So
usually, well,
would
you
that,
don't actually own up there, so usually it's the people on either side of the paper street
Get half.
get half.
I think in something like this, because that isn't a lot, it's a landlocked lot currently.
Yes.
So I think that, and again, I think that what we're gonna wind up seeing is that because there's really 3 lots that have access to that paper street, and it's just those 3 lots, I think,
Yeah.
they'd probably wind up being a third
Okay.
Right, and then you could get an easement
on the
on the other
2.
property for your driveway.
Right.
Okay.
And that we wouldn't necessarily have anything to do with, but I think you want to start thinking about asking the common council to discontinue the paper street.
Okay.
Then the paper street property gets deeded to the contiguous property owners. Then you're looking at a situation of an easement.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Well, it does. I mean, I'm not sure the process of
Right.
going through it, but yeah.
Yeah, and I think that, obviously, I think the first thing that would need to happen, and that's one of my notes, is that an actual survey showing all the adjoining lots in that entire area would have to be looked at, and then I think you'd have to go through, like Karen said, go through petitioning the common council to ask them to
Okay.
abandon the paper street, and then it's a separation between the 3 property owners
Okay.
in there.
It came to the common council through the ward council person
Okay.
the last time, so we're
Ward five.
Yes.
Which is that'd be, Mary Good.
Very good.
very good.
Yeah.
So she's your council person, you want to reach out to her, and she could bring a resolution to the common council.
Okay.
Chairman, would that constitute an actual purchase? Let's say, $1 for
I'm not sure how that's,
each lot would get a certain percentage?
Yes.
It would have to be to legalize it?
Yes,
Yes,
we
I
just
believe
continue
that's-
to use the paper street,
Okay.
and then the applicant is responsible for the necessary deeds to draw, the survey is required, because the maps have to be adjusted and filed.
Sure.
to take those out.
Okay. All right.
Was there any questions from any of the other board members?
That would probably be the best way to go and not have to build a regular street.
Yeah, correct.
And working with the neighbors.
Sure.
Yeah, that was a big relief, because if you put a road in, you'd have to do all the sewer and water and.
Well, sewer and water are gonna have to be run for a certain distance anyway, just.
That extra 100 feet or whatever, 150, whatever it takes to get there.
But to not have to build a street would be much more economical.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, to just run water and sewer out there.
Okay. Sure.
Was there anybody from the public that wished to comment on this? I know it's just sketch plan review, but at least throw that out there, anybody online? Okay. So this was just a sketch plan review, so those are kind of our comments to you, and I know that it's a bit difficult at this point to figure out what the best direction to go is, and I think that our recommendation would be to start with the councilperson from
Sure.
the board and talk to them as our council has said, to, look at the abandonment of the paper street and then start to work back from there.
Okay.
I think that's our best advice. I think that it's a decent way to get a buildable lot that's basically, as you said, landlocked now. So I think that's the best course of action.
Okay,
But
great.
that could be a really nice lot when you're out there looking at it.
Absolutely.
You
Yeah.
look over those other houses, it could be a nice spot.
Yep. Okay, thank you both.
Okay, thank you very much. There's lots of them. There's a ton of them actually. They're unbuildable. No way to get to it. Okay. The next item on our agenda is site plan review, 220017, pursuant to City Code Chapter 220, 20C, Sections 18 and 19. Cornell and Elena Nestor, owners of tax map number 303.18-18-2, commonly known as number 2 Hartland Place, are seeking a site plan review less intensive and approval for the placement of a pre-built 12-foot by 16-foot shed, 192 square feet in size, to replace an existing shed in disrepair at this location. The applicants are also seeking an area variance from the City Code Chapter 220-20, subsection H, parts 2A and 3, for the aforementioned proposal at the next City Planning or Zoning Board of Appeals to be held on the 19th of December 2022. Is there somebody here representing this application? Please. For the record, please state your name.
Cornelis.
Good evening. What would you like to tell us about your application?
Apparently I need a shed because I have a lot of stuff. I mean, the snow blower, all kind of gardening equipment. It's stuck in one little shed, and it's rotting away, and it's more and more stuff getting out, and I want to keep it all in one place.
And you don't want the roof really falling on it?
No. And my basement is it's not very high, so I cannot stock a lot of like Christmas ornaments. So I need an additional space to put a lot of things that are just laying around.
Right. And I think the biggest issue, just for everyone's education, is this is a single-family residence that's in a light industrial area, pre-existing.
I made a mistake for the road, and
It's
it's actually two-family.
It's a two-family
Right,
house.
okay, but it is a residence.
Yes.
It's single family, two family, whatever, but it is in the LI zone, and as everybody's aware, the LI zone, the
I don't know what
setbacks
that
are
means.
significantly larger. So I understand where this is coming from. That pretty much cover what you're looking for from us?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, yes.
All right. Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to speak on this application? Then I will speak to our board. Mr. Lanfield?
You stated that it was, this is to replace pre-existing dilapidated
Yep.
shed.
Yep.
Was the former shed the same dimensions as this?
No, it's
No,
small.
it's small.
No, the one that's there is a little bit smaller. I can drive by it.
Yeah.
I did a drive-by and kind of looked at it.
I
And
did as well.
it's kind of right out beside the tree, right?
Yeah.
It looks like the tree might be kind of growing into
Yeah,
it.
they push the shed in one
Okay.
side.
Okay. Yeah, so it looks like there's even been some preparation, I guess, maybe in lieu of this project. You got a stone. you got the-
Yeah,
and
the stone was there for a few years because I was parking my trailer there and
It seems to be set back, pretty, unobtrusive in my opinion. Doesn't really stick out or look gaudy, or seems to blend in with what you already have there.
yeah.
So that's my opinion.
Yeah, I live in the neighborhood, I think it's a good idea to put things together in a shed.
Yes.
I like that idea. And I had no problems, I did a drive-by also, and it fits right into the property, and it doesn't obstruct anybody else's view or anything like that.
Yeah, I wouldn't buy it if I wouldn't need it.
Yeah, so I think it's good.
I agree. I think it would be fine.
I don't really have any issues with it. If you need a little more storage there, it's a big lot. Shouldn't affect your neighbors adversely, so.
No.
It
Should.
So I really didn't have any issues. I drove by and took a look at it. I do understand the need for it because there's no garage, obviously. If there was a
No.
garage, it's a different story. This isn't a permanent structure. It's something that sits on a skid.
Yes.
So I think that's, and obviously there's none of your neighbors in here. It looks like it's a very well-kept property, so I don't foresee that being an issue. And I think that having a place to store.
I want to keep everything neat, I mean, I don't want
Exactly,
to be
yeah, it looks,
scandal.
it looks very,
It
especially
wasn't very
for
defined.
a two-family, you know, a lot of times the two-family residences, rentals get out of hand. Do you live there?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, so it's, you're owner
Yeah.
and you rent out one side.
Yes.
So, I think that, unfortunately, having the setbacks there are, that's not your fault, and I do understand that you have to go to the zoning board. So I guess my question to council, we'd be looking at a conditional approval conditional on
On the
the zoning.
necessary ZBA
Okay.
variances.
All right. Do we have any seeker on this?
With respect to seeker, I would classify this as a type 2 action as it is construction, expansion, or placement of a minor accessory residential structure which includes garages, carports, storage sheds, or other buildings not changing the use, land use, or density. Therefore, it's a type 2, no further action is required.
Great. Thank you very much. So with that being said, that being said, I would make a motion that the Glens Falls Planning Board, acting as the Board of Site Plan Review, hereby grant a conditional site plan approval for the project identified as Cornell and Alina Nister, owners of tax map number 303.18-18-2, commonly known as 2 Hartman Place, as presented at the meeting of 6 December. Subject to the following condition, that the required area variances from the Zoning Board of Appeals be granted to you prior to placement of the shed. Otherwise, our planning board is good with what you've proposed. We think it's an appropriate use of the project, and as long as the area variances are granted by the Zoning Board of Appeals, you'll be good to go.
Okay, thank you.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
All set from us.
All set, thanks.
On to the zoning board on the 19th.
Okay, thank you.
Good luck, thank you. So the last item on our agenda for this evening is site plan review and architectural review. Site plan review 220018 pursuant to City Code Chapter 220-19C, subsection 6. Elizabeth Miller, owner of tax map 309.28-4-3, commonly known as 126 Glen Street, is seeking site plan review and approval for a new use, as well as for the installation of an ADA compliant ramp and replacement of windows and new entry at this location. Also pursuant to City Code 220-19 subsection E, Elizabeth Miller, owner of tax map number 309.28-4-3, commonly known as 126 Glen Street, seeking architecture review and approval for the installation of the ADA compliant ramp and replacement of windows and the new entry at this location. Ms. Miller, would you like to join us? You and your representatives?
Before Ms. Miller speaks, I would just mention that the last application, the Nisters, it was referred to the Warren County Planning Department, and County Planning Department recommendation was no county impact.
Correct. Thank
Sorry,
you.
Catherine, I wanted you to say that earlier.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
For the record,
Yes, Elizabeth Miller, owner of 126 Glen Street.
thank you. I know that there have been some discussions back and forth, and I did have some comments that came from our architectural consultant, but explain to us where we're at with the project.
Where we're at with the entire project or the one I'm sharing with you?
The one you're sharing with us this
Okay.
evening.
Right now, the only thing I have going so far is my contractor is here, and he spoke with the people that are going to build the ramp. I've also ordered the enclosure, the glass enclosure, with two exterior doors, actually. There's 2 exterior doors, one door going up to the stairway, and then there'll be a new exterior door going into the main part of the first floor, and that goes into a lobby that's glass enclosed, and then another interior door. And that's all ordered.
And then the necessity for this ramp is because the existing,
There really isn't a necessity. I mean, there's just a door in the back door, but there's no handicap accessibility. And even though the building is old and it really, I guess technically doesn't need one, I thought based on what Mr. Shaw would like to have in that first floor, it would make sense that it would be handicap accessible.
a couple of items have come up to us since your application and a couple of things that we're going to need to discuss about it.
Okay.
The first being that it is in the historic district, the
Yep.
Three Squares Historic District, and I know you're aware of that.
Yes, sir.
And the fact that the proposed ramp is actually going to be constructed outside of your property.
Yes, sir.
I know that an encroachment permit had been filed for, but I believe, in speaking with council, and maybe you can address this better than I, but what would actually have to happen is instead of an encroachment permit, it'll have to be a permanent easement
Mhm.
for that to happen. The encroachment permit would take place for you to actually do the construction work,
Right.
but the easement would have to come first.
Right.
And I'll let
Correct.
council speak
Yep.
to that.
Yep, I figured it was something like that, yeah.
Oh, instead of the encroachment, like Ethan said, would allow you to build it,
Right.
because you're gonna be on city property.
Right.
But because this is a permanent fixed structure, you need an easement from the city.
Right.
So I think we need to be talking with the common council on granting you an easement. And it can be done,
Yep.
it's right on the same block.
Right.
The senator's office. and-
Yeah, I'm assuming it'll be something similar to Peter Hoffman's ramp that's currently on the other end of the block.
Right.
Right,
Yep.
and Senator Steck's office has.
Yeah, yeah, the Pizza Hut
Yeah,
and
same
Senator
kind of-
Steck's
yeah.
office, and those were all, that one was all done, I believe, when Centennial Circle was done.
Yes.
Those weren't accessible prior to, and then when they did Centennial Circle, they redid all of the infrastructure and the sidewalks and everything. I believe that they did those at the same time.
Right.
So that was a little bit different than yours, but again,
Yeah.
I think that that's what's gonna wind up being necessary. So based on that, how do we proceed here, knowing that?
Well, I think you can give guidance on the ramp itself
Mhm.
and the construction of the ramp, but nothing can get started until we have the easement worked out between the applicant and city.
And the time? I don't know what the time frame on something like that might be.
Have you been in contact, who you've been working with at the city at all? Jeff, have you been involved? Have you been involved with the project at all, or?
Tangentially, sure.
I mean, I would have to get it on the common council agenda, you're too late for next week. For the easement. Yeah, we're too late, so you're looking at a few weeks before you can even get on the common council
Well, it may
agenda.
not be too late, for next week, today's Tuesday. I'll talk to Chip tomorrow.
If I could expedite it a little bit in the fact that we'd have to wait any much longer, we wouldn't be able to construct it
To do the
before.
construction in the winter.
Right. And maybe if I could talk to Mayor Collins, he might be friendly.
Yeah, I think
He's
that
aware of
there's,
it, I spoke to the mayor
Yes.
today to let him know that this is not an encroachment, that it needs to be an easement, which is granted by the common council. So this is not the proper application, not to say that, this is for nothing.
No.
You know, you can certainly look at the ramp, you can give ideas,
And if the common
and
council
I
approves
guess
it.
the next question the common council might
Right.
ask is, have you explored any other options before seeking the easement on the city sidewalk?
Yeah, we looked at other options on the back door, but it would compromise the right of way going into the back parking lot. And it just isn't ideal.
and I didn't really see a great amount of detail on the interior of the building, but from memory, that's kind of where you've got a private, there's like a private room back there, or a private game room or something,
Yes,
and
if you-
your kitchen. And
Right, and if you'd
stuff.
like to talk to the gentleman that is renting the first floor, he is here as
Okay.
well, and would be able to answer any questions regarding the first floor.
Sure. Mark, do you want?
We're gonna get you up here while we're
Yeah.
You know, I love cameras in my.
Yes, you do.
Hello.
Can you state your name for the
Sure.
record?
Mark Shaw.
And so I think that what's being proposed actually is a great idea.
Mhm.
And approaching it from that, trying to come in from the back, as Elizabeth said, if
Yeah,
you try and do something from the back, I don't know that really works with your internal layout.
It really, nah, not necessarily. I mean, obviously the easiest way is through that window
Yeah.
and right through that area. So yeah, once you head in there, it's just a bunch of tables like you'd expect any other restaurant. There'll be a bar on the brick wall there, and then bathrooms on the end. You're almost bringing the people in the back way, right? Out of sight and everything versus coming right in. Not that it would be closed, but it just makes it a lot easier to get through the space.
Right. What I would like to read to you is our architectural consultant who couldn't be here tonight. He did have some items on here, and I'd like to read those in.
Mhm.
He says that the written application itself only refers to the installation of a handicap ramp. Publication of agenda along with the applicant's submitted materials refer to a handicap ramp and the changing of the windows and the doors, which we've clarified now. It appears appropriate the applicant should, for the record, correct the application for the document. The proposed handicap ramp appears to fall upon city property and did not find in the applicant's submitted materials an indication of property lines, which are important. We do have that material now, as I noticed that Matt Stevens sent along that, which would confirm this one way or another. If the ramp would fall upon city property, the applicant would need to require an easement. We've been through that, and that should precede the city planning board review. In reference to the published submittal requirements, Article 1.6, the applicant should investigate the proposed project in regard to the listed historic sites before applying for or submitting to the city planning board for review. If the proposed project is in the 3 Squares Historic District and involves exterior changes, if the project may receive public funding now or subsequently, the project directly, either indirectly or directly, the project is subject to review by the State Parks Commission. If so, the city planning board should not render a determination until that action is secured and the documents issued by SHPO. If the applicant is not receiving any public funding, that should be stated for the record and any city approval by the planning board. And that's from Dave Brown, our architectural consultant. So I do believe that you had made that statement that this isn't receiving any public, your private, that's all private.
Yep.
So I thought that was the case, and I thought that was the
Yep.
discussion that took
Yep.
So those are the items that we have on our docket right now. Is there anyone from the public that wishes to speak on this application? Anybody online, Peter? Nobody online? So are you good with us asking some questions
Sure,
now?
yeah.
Okay. So I'll start with Art.
No, looking at the drawings, I can see why you want to have that ramp there. It's conducive to the business you do and what you want to use the building for. I really don't have any issues. It complies with all the ADA rules.
Yep.
Looks like it'd be great for the city.
Rachel?
No, I agree with Art.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah,
I'm looking forward to
it
the
means
show.
certainly parallels what's down, further up the street, and that sounds good. As part of the easement, maybe the city should have the luxury of having maybe a full harmless clause as far as any opportunity for slip and falls or maintenance, things of that nature. I don't
That
know.
would have to be
That's
part
built
of
in.
the maintenance agreement.
It is, okay, I wasn't sure about that. Okay.
Yeah, I think anytime that there's an easement granted for something like this, that comes into play.
Good.
And that has to be, the maintenance agreement, and I believe there's something that says if the building is abandoned, it's, that whole portion becomes part of the city property or whatever.
Thank you.
Any additional comments from council?
I don't know that we can render site plan review without the easement in place.
I'm wondering that myself.
No, I don't think we should.
Right, okay. I did have just a couple of minor comments, and then they're more code issues that I think you're gonna run into, things that I wanted to bring to your attention. I think that the renderings that we've seen are super. The place looks great. I think that what you've got going there and the idea that you're working on, I think is a great idea. The code issue, and again, our code enforcement will most likely pick up on this, but both of the doors swing out, correct? The new exterior door coming from the stairs
Yes.
swings out,
Yep.
and the new front door from the vestibule going into the space also swings out.
Yes.
I believe the code says that with the door all the way open, you still have to maintain a 36-inch path when the door is all the way open.
Yep.
And it looked like your top
Landing?
the landing was
Yep.
only 5 feet wide. So that landing might have to be 6 feet wide in order for a 3-foot door to swing out and still have 3 feet to get by it.
All right.
That would be the only,
Yeah.
that's the only thing that I picked up on in looking
Yeah,
at the.
yeah, I don't know the gentleman that drew it. I
Yeah.
thought he drew it to ADA compliant.
Right. I think that that's something that, you know, ultimately will have to be looked at, but again, I really think that what you've got proposed here is a good idea.
Yeah.
I think it'll fly, but
Okay.
I think we've got a couple of steps that we have to get before we get to that point. So,
Right.
I think at this point, council, do you feel that a tabling motion on our part is the best
Yep.
course of action
Yeah.
until we have?
Until the applicant comes back
With
with
an
the
easement,
easement.
so-
granted by the city.
I think if, you know, you've got our, you know,
Approval, sort of?
quasi approval. We can't act on it. I mean, obviously, the members of our board have spoken and we're all in favor of your project. It's just unfortunately, our hands are kind of tied based on, we can't approve you to build something on the city property without the easement already being in place. So I think once that's done, it's a matter of them coming back to us and
Does that mean waiting another month?
we will be able to, if the easement, I believe, is approved at the next common council meeting, then I think at that point, you can go forward with a building permit, and we can, you know,
Expedite it a bit?
yeah, we can
Okay.
expedite it, and then at our January meeting, what date? Third. So I mean, at that point, we'd be able to make that approval at that point.
So I'd have to wait till January to start?
Yes.
I believe so, yes. Because we can't make an approval even contingent upon something that we don't even have an application for.
Right. If the common council approves it, you can't expedite your approval before the January meeting?
I don't believe we can.
I mean, you'd have to call a special meeting.
Right. Yeah, because it would have to be re-advertised in the whole 9 yards.
Right.
So I think that's the best we're gonna get at this point, unfortunately.
We'll see what we
Yeah.
can do. Thanks so much.
This was
Okay.
also referred to the warrant
Yes.
on the planning department, and then he sent back, discuss the design of the ADA ramp with the applicant, strongly encourage that the ramp's design, material composition, and handrail be constructed similar in design and function as the existing ramp located at the opposite end of the block on Glens Street. This suggestion would help unify the building facades and to include these ADA functional appurtenances, how do you say the word? Appurtenances on public sidewalk. Efforts should be made to minimize obstruction, I know, I hate that word. Efforts should be made to minimize obstructions that would impede pedestrian movement on the sidewalk.
And I think we discussed all this.
Yes, we did. Okay.
So then, with that being said, I would make a motion that we table the application for Elizabeth Miller at 126 Glen Street, pending the easement from the common council for the construction in the city property and re-reviewed by our board at the January 3rd meeting.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Yes. Our Director of Planning and Zoning would like to ask a quick question. Can I ask you to come to can I ask you to come up and speak in front of the board?
Sorry, come up, okay, so I
Please.
just want to make sure.
Justin,
Catherine Hammond, Planning and Zoning Coordinator, thanks for the promotion. Anyway, he called me to my close. I'm wondering what we'll be doing about this encroachment permit. I'm noticing the dates, obviously, she's not gonna be ready in time for any construction. Shall she resubmit a new encroachment permit then?
No, it's
Well,
not an encroachment.
No, she needs
that
one for the
would only be
construction.
for the construction, and that would be fine.
This will work. You are only doing an advisory opinion on that?
We typically get asked by the common council, so the common council has not seen that yet that I'm aware of.
Right, so that we'll have to do a new one just because obviously the dates are off and everything.
Yeah, the
And then
dates are
that'll just have to go to common council, and that's just because when they're doing construction, you're gonna be blocking off the sidewalk, that's really what it's gonna be for.
So this won't even have to come
That-
from an
that'll-
advisory
that'll-
opinion at that point. Okay.
Unless they want a recommendation.
So I'll just forward a blank one over to Mrs. Miller and ask
We
her
won't
to
need
bring
it
it
until
just to
there's
you.
actual construction going first.
And I don't need to see it.
That,
Okay, okay, thank you, just want to clarify.
okay.
For the edification of the board, I'd like to introduce our code enforcement officer, Justin Reckner, who's here tonight. I had a meeting with Justin a week ago, maybe?
Yes, last Monday.
A week ago Monday.
Yes.
But I introduced myself to him, and just for the education of the board. Justin is now the head of buildings and codes in the city of Glens Falls. You have someone else working down there, I know Will isn't there anymore.
Correct. Will left my first week there. I have since hired a gentleman by the name of Philip Cancelleri to be my building safety inspector. He's been there, actually today was his 1 month.
Good.
Made it this far, so.
So, just to bring everybody else up to speed as to where we are, now we have a functioning code enforcement office again, and they're working kind of hand in hand with planning and zoning, so.
Yes.
Hopefully this package is getting streamlined a little bit, so when things come to us, they're a little
Notice
more.
the little difference in the packages.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, we're making efforts to try and make everything easier and streamline the processes here, you know.
So that by the time it gets to us, there aren't
Yeah.
a lot of the issues that we've had in the past of incomplete packages and things that aren't.
It's one of our projects. Obviously, it's a rocky road right now, but we're trying to smooth it out, so.
Exactly.
That's the
I
intent.
appreciate it. I appreciate you coming.
No problem.
Just meet that
Nice to meet
a
everyone.
couple weeks ago. Construction box at the Queensbury. At the Queensbury Hotel. Yes.
Does anybody have anything else for the good of the common people here? No, we're all good, then I would make a motion to adjourn this evening's meeting, and we can adjourn next door. Second? All in favor?